How did you become involved in social justice work?
I became involved in social justice work being raised as a UU, so it was always a priority. My father was a union activist, so I always saw the power of that kind of thing.
I started getting involved in social justice work without really realizing it when I was a child, and I was probably in junior high school when the Equal Rights Amendment was going through, and was one of the few people that was speaking out in favor of it.
Well, I suppose my involvement in social justice goes way back into the 60s when I was fighting for conscientious objection against a war, it was Vietnam War, that I didn't like, got involved in civil rights.
I've had an interest in habitat since Jimmy Carter's early involvement, but it wasn't until I joined FUUN that I actively engaged. During my childhood, I loved helping my dad and brothers build and create things.
I started work in social justice probably when I was a teenager. Growing up in the Philippines, I did a lot of mission work with the church that we went to.
I originally became involved in social justice work really through this church. I was a fairly young mother and didn't get really involved until my kids got a little older and I moved into Davidson County because I was originally in another county, but this church was the one who interested me in social justice.
I became involved in social justice work because, like so many people, somebody in my family needed me to become involved in social justice work.
What social issues have you worked on in the past?
I have had the opportunity to work with NOAA, doing some canvassing, and also attending some banquet fundraisers, which have been really enjoyable. I also love cooking for Safe Haven and am currently the co-chair for our monthly meals that we do for the sheltered families there.
Issues of race and equity, and I've been on the Beloved Community team here at church, I think for about 3 years.
I had been involved with various social justice issues before joining FUUN in places I'd lived, and in marches for social justice here, as well as in a multiple-year effort to improve young children's literacy in Sierra Leone.
I've worked on labor organization, I've worked on LGBTQ rights, and I've worked with general kind of social aid and assistance for people who need it through cooking, organizing meal distribution, things like that.
I was particularly involved in environmental organizations, Tennessee Environmental Council, the Tennessee Conservation Voters. I was on the board of a number of other ones, and those dealt with social justice, particularly in terms of the environment being put in areas where there were underprivileged people. But I've worked on, as I said there, I've worked on habitat for any number of years here as part of the church. And also not only working at Habitat, but I also was kind of the host for Habitat events here to raise money for Habitat. Let me see, I was, as I said, dialogues and diversity. I was also involved, did help out for Rumatheum. So those were kind of things that I've worked on here.
I've worked originally on Habitat for Humanity as a social justice issue, and that's remained with me. But I recently became more involved in NOAA, when I say recently, in the last 7 or 8 years. And that has been more of an involvement as I go on.
The primary issue that I've worked with in the past has been homelessness, and I'm currently the coordinator for Room the Inn here at the First Unitarian Universalist Church, and so I would say that's probably one of the biggest issues in social justice work that I've been involved in.
My life experiences involve being the parent of a kid that is marginalized and needs a voice for them. And so I'm trying to be that voice.
What are some of the challenges you face as you support social justice causes?
That I'm experiencing personally, especially, is just a lack of available volunteers for some of the activities that we do.
For habitat work, one of the most obvious challenges is the physical challenge of learning something new and knowing your work is going to impact someone else's house, and the rewards from working through those challenges.
Well, now as a grown adult with a full-time job, time would be the biggest challenge, I'd say, and figuring out where to best focus my efforts and abilities, given the finite time that we have.
Recruiting volunteers to come in for different programs. So I would say that finding people to do the work is one of the biggest challenges.
With NOAA is you get discouraged. These are big issues, and there is a lot of power in the opposition, especially in the state here in Tennessee. So it's easy to get discouraged with some of these big issues like affordable housing, and that's always tough. It's great to have support here among the congregation.
Well, I live a bit away from, I live kind of out in the boonies, and as a result, there's not a lot of easy stuff to do right where I am, so I tend to travel a lot.
When I get the opportunity to volunteer with these organizations, I just feel so connected to my community. I love spending time with people in my community, and I also get to connect with people at church that have volunteered for the same thing that I've volunteered. I all around love it.